Do Macho Man Randy Savage introducing the show.
Let's see. What would he say? He would, because I couldn't cut a promo the way that he would, but he would be like, "Oh yeah, it's the Home Alone minute." He's just like so stressed. He's got like red, puffy
No,
face.
I see your bulging veins. I get it. Do Obi-Wan Kenobi introducing the show.
Well, of course I know him. It's the Home Alone minute.
That's pretty good. Do Mr. Burns introducing our podcast.
I've been told to say something about the Home Alone minute. That's my time.
Pretty good. I'll take it. So yeah, hello. Welcome to the Home Alone Minute. Presented by the Home Alones, one of America's best bands about the movie Home Alone, where we talk about each minute of the movie Home Alone. And we're on minute number 3.
Race.
The third minute of the best movie ever.
The third minute. The third day. Third eye blind. Third door down.
This is our first creditless minute. We don't have to go down an IMDb rabbit hole for anybody here. We just have straight up movie happening.
Yes. What's the first thing you notice in this minute? And what's the first thing you feel in this minute?
The first thing I notice, I guess, is the first thing that's happening, which is Kate still on the phone talking to her friend who's
still on she's been on the phone since last week.
And it's a very sort of like bland conversation too. Here's something that I do notice that I don't think gets a lot of attention here is they have a dog. Kate's on the phone and she says that no, they're putting their dog in the kennel. They have a dog.
Well, if leaving your child home alone could be resolved days ahead of your trip, they would have sorted that out as well.
I don't follow.
Maybe I was reading too much into what you were saying, but it sounded very accusatory. Like, oh, you figured out what to do with your dog, but you left your kid at home.
No, I didn't mean it like that at all. I just mean that
I was projecting my own judginess.
We don't see the dog. There's no evidence of the dog anywhere in the house.
But that is true of rich people homes, right? No real evidence that they have pets.
Maybe, but like the dog.
But there's a doggy door that Marv puts his head through.
Sure. Does every house with a doggy door have a dog? They don't talk about the dog in Home Alone 2 Lost in New York either.
Just because I don't 100% recall the line, they're talking about their dog and not whoever else's dog. It's like, oh, she's going to Montreal.
No, it's their dog.
It's not her dog. Okay.
Kate's explaining that they put their dog, they're not taking the dog, they put it in a kennel. That's the first thing that I noticed, that they have a dog. We never hear about that dog outside of this phone call.
The first thing I notice is that we have now had multiple mentions of Uncle Frank. It's like, oh, Peter's brother and his family are here. And then it's like, Uncle Frank won't let me watch the movie. Like, we've had multiple mentions of this guy, and he's also like the only one we haven't seen yet. Like, we've seen a good majority of the family already.
Yeah.
Haven't seen Uncle Frank, but he's been name-checked multiple times now.
I would argue that we've gotten a lot of what we in the English teacher biz call indirect characterization.
Right. We know more about him, and he's the one we haven't seen.
If Uncle Frank says no, then it must be really bad.
Which is in line with the type of character you would think he is based on her saying,
yeah,
Pete's brother's family's in town. And
yeah, the line makes a lot of sense once you meet Uncle Frank and realize what a monster he is.
So what's the first thing you felt on watching this minute?
There's a little bit of relief as we settle into Kevin's story, because this is when Kevin walks in. We meet Kevin for the first time. So you've got all this build up of the first 2 minutes, and then you meet your protagonist, and he's already having a bad time.
Yeah.
He's also already he's a bit of a smart ass, right? Hang up the phone and make me, why don't you?
He says that without looking.
Yes. Well, he says it looking at a French guidebook.
What I think is worthy of applause in the writing here is that we really quickly get 3 different dynamics. We get a father-son, a mother-son, and a husband and wife dynamic really quickly established in a way that does not feel janky at all.
Agreed. There's a very low jank meter here.
On one of my rewatches of this minute, there is a line where Peter comes in and asks about getting that voltage adapter.
That's right.
And Kate says, no, I didn't have time. And my wife was able to call out that this was clearly written by men, because that's far too rational of a response. Because what she would have said was, oh, wait, so it's my responsibility to get your voltage adapter? When was that on me? As opposed to Kate's response of, no, I didn't have time.
Well, and she does deliver it in a very dismissive, I can't even believe you're asking about that. She says no, I didn't have time to do that. Are you nuts? Look at everything that's going on here. When was I supposed to get the voltage adapter?
Right. She's the far more rational in that exchange, as is the case with every episode. Shout out to my wife on that one. But one thing that I thought that was very, very natural and happened a lot in my home was the tossing of the discipline, because she doesn't say, hey, you were on the glue gun again. No, she just tosses it over. Hey, Dad, can you deal with this? He's been using the glue gun again. You're the disciplinarian. You deal with that.
Right. Because she's on the phone with someone going to Montreal.
Someone talking about someone else going to Montreal and talking about a kennel for a dog that no one seems to care about. Wait, is that the subplot that they never got it out of the kennel after this?
There's a movie, right?
The Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead of Home Alone universe, where we follow the dog's journey.
There's a whole extra Home Alone about the dog.
Home Alone 1.5.
Yeah.
There's a Shadows of the Empire for Home Alone, and it's following the dog's journey from going into the kennel and saying, are they ever going to pick me up?
Who voices the dog in Home Alone 1.5? Look who's home alone now.
It's got to be Larry David.
Ooh, good choice. I'd watch it. Yeah, I'd watch that.
What's the one that you couldn't watch, no matter how good it is? What voice?
I know it's an unpopular opinion on the internet, but I don't like Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, unless you're looking for a Keanu Reeves type.
Yeah, the less he says, the better in a movie, in my opinion.
So John Wick is kind of his.
It's the best it's going to get. I still didn't love it.
Which of the 87 John Wicks did you not like?
To be fair, I watched John Wick Prime and stopped there, recognizing that it was not for me.
This is also the first scene where we get what I don't actually think is product placement. I don't feel like Galoob paid money for this, but Micro Machines are mentioned by name.
That's true. It's a very specific toy at a very specific moment in time, which it still works somehow, even though people don't even know what Micro Machines are. But the name Micro Machines, you can kind of intuit what a Micro Machine is.
It's so well named.
Did you have Micro Machines growing up?
I did. My rich friends had the Super Van City. That thing that looked like a Winnebago.
Oh, and it would unfold, and that was the carrying case for all your Micro Machines?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was jealous of that, but what are we, the McCallisters?
Yeah.
Because later in the film, we discover just how many micro machines he has. And
It's some impressive foreshadowing.
yes, because if Leslie almost broke her neck, all right, we're planting seeds.
Oh, so good. Start the so good meter.
This is something that I'll ask you because you are a bit of a writer. And we should also ask our friends who are writers as well. But are these things that you go back in and tag later? Like you're writing these scenes where Harry and Marv are slipping on micro machines that he's placed. Do you go back in and start tagging in these little things and bits of dialogue elsewhere?
Yeah, I can't speak for how John Hughes works. But I know that it's really common to do multiple passes and doing passes for specific reasons. So maybe doing another draft and only focusing on your theme and sort of planting these seeds for your themes, and only doing another pass for a particular character, and only doing another pass to just punch up as many jokes as you possibly can, if you're making a comedy. And I can imagine John Hughes going through this and doing a pass, getting a whole draft done, trying to plant as many seeds that lead up to the home invasion, and everything pays off there.
Well, and I know Chris Columbus did some uncredited writing on this as well, right? Didn't he do a pass or two?
I don't know. I mean, there are like union rules for that kind of thing. So if he did any significant work, like he would have a credit. He would have like a story by, or it would say written by John Hughes and Chris Columbus, probably AND instead of ampersand.
We still have no idea how any of that works. But yeah, I'm 95% on that. Chris did like an uncredited pass when they were sort of in early discussions, but I think that sort of stuff is fascinating. Those like planted seeds, because even if it is I'm going to go back and do a pass and plant these in. It just doesn't feel out of place. It doesn't feel janky. It doesn't feel intentionally left there. And if you're just watching this film like in order, chronologically, this isn't your second watch and you know what he's talking about and foreshadowing. It doesn't feel like a wink or a side eye. It feels very natural as part of the dialogue.
Well, and I also know that in 1990, a dad telling his son to go pick up his micro machines was a very natural admonishment. So it just makes sense for the relationship. You got this bratty little kid, and how many times did you hear that as a child? Oh, do you want something to do? I've got something for you to do. Yes. There's a garden bed full of weeds. There's the mess that you made. You haven't put your Nintendo games up yet, or something like that. So it works on that level, but it also foreshadows his craftiness later.
Well, that's what I was actually going to say about the glue gun, the ornaments, fish hooks, that whole thing. Maybe it's just because I'm sitting across from an English teacher and you have that effect on people where you make them overanalyze everything. So you actually read into it more than maybe even the author meant. But I do feel like this is setting up his craftiness, setting up his penchant for being a doer, a maker, a creator.
Right, yeah. And so he's not only a helpless little brat.
Right.
Because they lean into the brattiness and the helplessness a lot. But there are these little nuggets of insight into his character that he's capable of more. I never made my own Christmas ornaments with a glue gun, but Kevin does.
What did you make your ornaments out of?
The only ornament
popsicle sticks
I remember making, and I gave it to my grandmother. It was a little dog, and it was made out of a dog biscuit, like a little bone-shaped dog biscuit. It's like a dog treat. They have like googly eyes and like maybe some like construction paper ears or something. And I think my grandma held on to that for many, many years, even though it was an edible, perishable dog treat ornament.
But you weren't making these Rube Goldberg devices that would eventually lead to the protection of your home.
No, when the burglars came for my house, I just rolled over like a little coward.
You told them where everything is?
They took everything, yeah. My VCRs, my very fine jewelry.
Cash hoards, toys. Luckily, that minute is going to be several weeks away, so people won't remember that we said that.
There's going to be a lot of like bleeding into other moments of the movie, right? Like we can't help but. You and I sort of communicate through Home Alone quotes pretty often.
Is that more on us or on the brilliance of the film?
I think it's our brilliance, right?
I don't think I could ever agree with that. I agree that you are brilliant, and I am around.
No, you're great.
I've never even made an ornament out of dog treats.
Your child is a little younger than mine and hasn't started a life of creation yet, right?
You mean like reproduction? Because I like just made him.
Right. I'm art, making, scribbling on paper, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the daycare will send things home that they have forced his hands to do.
Yes.
But he is not creating anything.
Yes. And I think you will find that the last stop for all toddler-made art is Grandma's house. That was the journey that my dog biscuit Christmas ornament took. Was I brought it home from school super excited. And my mom took one look at that thing and said, "You know who would love that?"
Not me.
Your grandmother, who sees no fault in your eyes.
We all need a grandma's fridge. And as yin is to yang, we all need an Uncle Frank.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to talk about too. Dude, I didn't have an Uncle Frank in my life. My uncles were all pretty cool. I've met one of your uncles.
Mm-hmm.
He's pretty cool.
He's pretty cool. I think we have the same problem. Yeah, I don't have an Uncle Frank.
He's a great character. Even when he's not on screen, he's causing problems. He's stirring up trouble for Kevin. We already know so much about him through a few lines here, having not even seen him yet.
And I think we may have missed out in some way, not for better or worse, but just in the fact that when I went to friends' holiday gatherings or even like old girlfriends and things like that, I've experienced many an Uncle Frank.
Uncles Frank?
Uncles Frank. Attorneys General. So I see why the character exists and why it's a trope, because it is very common. But I do wonder how it comes about. Because like you say, you and I have enough uncles to where one should have emerged, but did not. What creates an Uncle Frank?
That's interesting, right? He seems older than Peter, right?
Yeah.
Is he older than Rob? Are we assuming that Uncle Frank is the oldest child? Because he doesn't really have oldest child energy.
No.
But then again, like his kids are on average younger than Peter and Kate's kids, right?
But Heather belongs to Rob, right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so Rob might be the oldest.
Maybe Rob's the oldest. Is Frank the youngest? Frank has youngest child energy. He's spoiled, he's loud, he's brash.
He's a bit of a leech, a bit of a weasel.
Oh, yeah. And I guess we'll get to it later on when he has the audacity to say, "Look what you did, you little jerk." But in that moment, if you just switch the point of view up, like Uncle Frank's the hero of that moment. Uncle Frank's willing to say what no one else is willing to say, and it opens the floodgates of everyone dumping An 8-year-old.
I was about to say, how far are you going to go on this? Because I don't quite see it that way. He's saying what everyone's thinking. I just don't like that everyone's thinking that.
Which makes him, I mean,
a bad influence? Yeah.
Is it a bad influence to have the courage? He's got the courage to say it.
This is what's wrong with your generation. You kids these days, and your courage to say whatever you feel like you need to say. Yeah, maybe you should just not say it.
Maybe.
Especially if it's demeaning an 8-year-old. Like, as an adult, how do you not have the constitution to just not berate an 8-year-old for something that admittedly anyone paying attention would recognize as just a reaction to what his...
This is a later episode, obviously, but the buildup does make sense for the whole family to have had it with Kevin at this moment. He's been stomping up and down. He's been yelling at everybody. He's been totally helpless. This has probably been going on for a couple of days, if not a couple of weeks, while all the cousins are in the house. Everything's, just boils over. I'm obviously on Kevin's side, but it's at least a rational execution to have Uncle Frank have the guts to open that up and call him a little jerk. He is kind of being a little jerk. And we get the dramatic irony of, it's a later episode, but of Buzz pestering Kevin, sending him over the edge, and no one else sees that. That's what sets him off. So everyone's mad at Kevin, not at Buzz.
But you're right. We're getting a bit away from this particular minute.
Yes, we are.
What we've established about Uncle Frank so far is that he's prevented Kevin from watching the movie, which isn't even rated R.
He's just being a jerk.
So I think that sets the groundwork for Kevin to be a jerk if he wants to, because Frank's obviously being a jerk. It's not even rated R. So he can't watch it, but the big kids can. Does that mean that Kevin is in a weird middle ground where there are the big kids, which everyone sort of acknowledges as that? Because he says that to his mother as if she'll know what population that is.
Yes, Kevin is the tallest kid still sitting at the kids' table.
Right. So his two younger cousins are left to do something other than watch the movie, right?
Yes.
Somewhere. Maybe Leslie's taken them to do something. But it's super baby, maybe, to Kevin. Maybe it's too infantile for him. And the big kids are watching a movie. What is he to do? Who's looking out for Kevin right now?
Well, nobody. That's the point, right?
Of the whole film, yeah.
It's called Home Alone.
He's stuck in the middle with you.
That's Reservoir Dogs.
Mm.
We are to assume that the movie that Uncle Frank was watching with the older kids was Angels with Filthy Souls, right?
Right. Which we have to assume is rated PG-13.
That is clearly designed to be a pre-MPAA film.
This is something where I'm a little bit out of my depth, but don't, when they start releasing those films to home video, they apply ratings to a lot of them?
I don't think so.
No? Okay. So it's unrated.
Which has an even darker implication. This movie's unrated.
Like The Nutty Professor 2, which had an unrated DVD release.
Yeah, all those DVD releases. This is unrated. Well, yeah, because you threw in one scene and didn't
get it re-rated.
Yeah. It's unrated. Who knows what's on this thing? We might kill a guy.
People downplay the value of marketing, but that's exactly what that is.
Oh, yeah.
It's someone taking something that is a cost reduction and saying, how can we spin this to actually be a value add or a benefit?
Not even rated, you guys.
Anything could happen. A whole other movie could start.
We've got this big bucket of animals and we just kill them one by one. Are you into that sick stuff? Then maybe you'll like American Pie on DVD. Because it's unrated now. Brace yourselves, idiots.
So I don't know how inside baseball or meta I'm allowed to be, but I'm going to reference the fact that we have notes here, and one of them that you wrote down was Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff walks by. Jeff walks by. It's a nice touch. We kind of get a pretty good look at Kate and Peter's room here. It is a hot mess of Christmas colors, like you pointed out last episode. It's all red and
Their
green.
room and the hallway, like their bedspread's red, the wallpaper's red and green, art red and green, hallway red and green. It's crazy.
But their bedroom is also...
With fireplace?
Yes, I wanted to point that out too. They have a fireplace in their bedroom.
Yeah. The people that you as a child did not acknowledge as rich.
It never occurred to me.
They're not rich. They have a fireplace in their bedroom.
I just had to watch it 200 times. Okay, I'm sorry. I will say that on my bus route growing up, there was one stop on my bus route. It was this old house right next to a gas station, like 10 yards away from a gas station. And it had a lot of chimneys. It had like 4 chimneys coming out of it. And somebody on the bus posited that all of the chimneys were because that family smokes a lot of pot and they need the chimneys for ventilation. And I don't think that they put that kind of architectural forethought into their activities. But it did seem like they smoked a lot of pot.
I love that kind of blue sky thinking. That's someone who hasn't been beaten down by the world yet.
I'm just saying that I've seen some homes that clearly had some fireplaces and some bedrooms that were not palatial by any means.
But they weren't fireplaces just for weed.
Yeah, I'm not sure. These are the wild rumors of an elementary school bus ride.
Kind of going back to their room and how large it is and how Christmas themed it seems to permanently be. We also get a glimpse into what I believe to be Kate's unwritten profession, in that she appears to be a fashion designer.
She does have like those what do you call those things? They're not
Mannequins?
Is that a mannequin though? Where if it's just like the sort of torso?
Oh yeah.
And why do they have so many of those? Because there's one up in her bedroom. There's one down in the basement. Are you suggesting that has to do with her job?
Yeah, I'm thinking that she's like a fashion designer or something like that. Because at least in this minute, we get that. And forgive me, textiles people. I'm going to call it a mannequin because I don't know another word to call it. But we see that, and we also see a vintage sewing machine, like an old, like a really old Singer, I think.
Okay. And
I don't know if that's more like decor, or I'm just so not into the niche of textiles. Is that the same way that? Because like as audio people, they're like, oh, I have this like vintage compressor. You know, if you're in textiles, you're like, oh, I have this vintage sewing machine. That might be, they're like, oh, they don't make them like this anymore. Is that the buy it for life sewing machine?
I will say that my mom, a skilled sewing machine user, pretty crafty. She would fill the house up with old sewing machines just for decoration purposes.
Yeah, but again, we see this in future minutes, but we see like all these tape measures and like chalk lines and things that are clearly that of someone who's in textiles or something of the like.
So Kevin gets his crafty nature from Kate.
One would think. So he got the Peter look and the Kate craftiness. whereas Buzz got the inverse.
And then Jeff walks by.
Jeff!
It's such a great, subtle little detail that they didn't have to throw in there.
I'm of two minds about it because I think it could be just a subtle genius in that it's trying to establish this sort of extended chaos that's happening around everyone and saying like there is still shuffling and movement happening beyond this room. On the other hand, it also could just be classic cinematography of like, oh, well, I usually have extras going in this type of shot. I'm going to have somebody walk by over here. Maybe it's Lenny, maybe it's Jeff, whatever, right? Like it seems.
But that means that Jeff had to be there. He had to be in a scene that he's not in. He had to walk from the stairs into that Buzz's room. What room is he going? Or was it that bathroom? Walking into some room right next to Kate and Peter's.
Well, does he share a room? Do they? Because it's a large house, but is it large enough that all the kids have their own room?
We never see Kevin's room. I can see you racking your brain, but we never do. We're never in Kevin's room. Kevin gets left home alone and he doesn't spend a second of it inside of his own bedroom.
Right. All the different places he sleeps. One is the auxiliary. He goes to the attic, right? And then he sort of stays there.
The third floor.
And then he sleeps in his parents' bed. And when he's rummaging, that's in Buzz's room, which I guess he wouldn't say if Buzz shared a room.
He falls asleep on that recliner where he was watching the movie.
Yeah.
If you were left home alone, would you be anywhere but your own room? Like, why would you go in your own room? You know your room.
This makes me want to do another So Good, but that's exactly right. Why would you be in your room ever?
I get sleeping in your parents' bed. Of course, you're going to take the big bed. But poor Jeff. Poor Jeff had to be on set, ready to go. Who knows it?
Yeah, he's on the call sheet, right? It's a different floor.
I'm sure they shot this, at some other point around Jeff's other scenes, which are few.
He does the Such a Disease thing differently.
Oh, that always bugs me. That it's a slightly different delivery.
Yeah, which you can retro and say that's Kevin's misremembering. But Jeff's in this scene, and good for Jeff. He's going in someone's room. Let's call it Buzz's.
Let's call it Buzz's. Or is it the bathroom? Because after this, he's like getting stuff out of the bathroom. He sort of like smoothly like grabs his toothbrush or something and throws it in his bag.
Yeah, it'll be worth going back in and looking at the angle and seeing what room he's going into. Because has he been in the bathroom this whole time?
Do you think that there's a smaller relative also named Jeff that he goes on adventures with?
A smaller Jeff who has a tattoo of a girl named Rose?
Wiggle, Rose. Wiggle. His dad's name is Pete.
Another potential subplot. Jeff is too scared to admit that he's afraid of angels with filthy souls and excuses himself to the bathroom for the entirety of the movie.
That's another thing that doesn't quite make sense is that the
big kids are watching a movie.
But they're not. Everybody's running around. Jeff clearly counts as a big kid, right? Buzz clearly counts as a big kid. They're not watching this movie.
It's possible that they're sort of setting up to watch the movie now. Like they're all sort of gathering.
Oh, yes. Okay. I'll buy that. I'll also buy that Kevin ruined the good time. He pitched a fit, and now it's no fun to watch the movie anyway, so they just turn it off.
One thing that we haven't covered is the screenplay to this minute.
What I remember noting about it is that the whole voltage adapter bit gets a little more mileage in the screenplay. Yeah, the micro machines, they're in the screenplay. He was in the garage again playing with the glue gun.
Wait, he's 7.
Yes, that is a difference in the screenplay, is that Kevin's off by a year. Another thing to mention is maybe the description that we get of his dad, Peter. He's 40, good looking, easygoing. I think that's pretty apt for John Hurt.
I do too. Yeah, I think that's it.
There's a slight difference. The original line is, if Uncle Frank says no, I say no. And I think it's an improvement to have him, if Uncle Frank says no, then it must be really bad, because that shows what a jerk Uncle Frank is.
So I wonder if the goatee line was improvised.
Yeah, it's not in the script, right?
Because in the script, he says, "How am I going to shave?" And I think he's actually says, "How am I going to shave in France?" Sort of extra establishing where they're going.
Well, that makes the goatee joke make more sense, right?
Yeah. Which I think is an okay joke, but practically
Doesn't make any
it doesn't
sense.
work.
Because if you're going to grow a goatee, you have to shave the rest of your face.
Right.
Except the goatee zone.
I just keep... I can't stop thinking about the goatee zone now. Just like as an area of a barbershop that has a bunch of products for people with goatees. It's the goatee zone.
Oh, I thought of it as like...
Not the goatee zone on your face, which I know what you're referencing.
Yeah, I like it as an indicator of location despite what your facial hair looks like. Like if you have a little bit of cereal or soup. Like, oh, where is it? Oh, it's on the goatee zone. It's right there on the goatee zone.
I kind of thought you were going more towards the idea that even if you shave it, like spiritually, you still have a goatee.
I like the idea of a guy named T-Zone being encouraged in some way.
Just cheered on.
Goatee zone. Goatee zone.
Goatee zone. It's always his birthday. Yeah, so I think there was probably a decent amount of ad-libbing and improv done. And if not, it would have been a waste because that's her forte, right?
Yeah, that stuff's going to happen on set, especially if you've got people like Catherine O'Hara and John Candy. The legend is that John Candy improvised this whole thing. I guess we'll get to it when we read the script and get to his scene.
So he's playing with the glue gun in the garage. And he's like, did I burn down the joint? I don't think so. But in the script, we see my good fish hooks with question mark, exclamation mark, question mark. And John Hurt delivers it
a little more flat.
Yeah. My good fish hooks?
Oh, that's good.
Which is
it so good?
I'd say it's so good.
It's also the first of at least 2 times that Kevin says, I don't think so. And it's sort of a catchphrasey kind of way.
I don't think so. Yeah, were they already thinking of t-shirts at this point?
Maybe. Did I burn down the joint?
I don't know why, but that strikes me as very Chicago.
Well, him calling the garage the joint is it does stink a little bit of that. I think of it as like Full House dialogue, where sure, it's coming out of an 8-year-old's mouth, but it was written by a Jewish man in his 40s.
That is still true to life in some ways, though, because kids emulate.
Sure, but kids aren't that funny. And I think Kevin is a really great representation. I think he's a pretty accurate depiction of an 8-year-old. And at least almost sort of a wish fulfillment. I think when we watched it, we wanted to be Kevin, right? We wanted to have the house to ourselves.
Right, except the family doesn't come home at the end.
I think we all go through the journey excited. I as a kid, I didn't think about the end quite as much. Reuniting with his mom.
Well, because you're so far from death.
Yeah, exactly. I don't care about my loved ones. I just want the house to myself for a little while. Sounds great. And to be as industrious as he is and crafty and be able to beat up some bad guys. That's so cool. We kind of want to be Kevin. Who else did you look up to like that? Who were like the I wish I could be this cool kind of kids?
I'd say Kid Vid.
I was going to say Kid Vid from the Burger King Kids Club. So cool.
So cool.
So very cool.
So good.
I think Link from the Zelda cartoons that came on the Super Mario Brothers Super Show on Fridays.
Oh, I thought you meant Link as portrayed by Brendan Fraser in Encino Man.
No. But probably
Stoney, Pauly Shore?
Probably Pauly Shore's character from the Goofy movie.
Leaning Tower of Cheesa?
Yeah. He's the coolest.
He's pretty cool.
Max is pretty cool in a Goofy movie, too.
Max got cool.
He does that power line thing really early on.
Powerline's cool. Powerline is cool.
Well, and he emulates power line expertly.
So in our Goofy Movie Minute, how early do we get to that scene?
That's like first 10 minutes of the movie. That happens quick. Where he dresses up like Powerline and crashes the school assembly.
It might even be overlapping with credits, right?
I don't know. I don't think so. When we start the Goofy Movie Minute, yeah, email us at thegoofymovieminute@gmail.com.
Yeah. What is our email address for this show? Do we call it a show? I feel old.
I think it's a podcast. Yeah, it's a show.
For this cast.
I don't think that's correct. But yeah, we have an email address now. It's thehomealoneminute@gmail.com. thehomealoneminute@gmail.com.
Did you say the Home Alone Minute @gmail.com?
I said the Home Alone Minute @gmail.com.
Okay.
And that's where you can email us.
I'm going to write that down, actually. Hold on.
Yeah.
The Home Alone Minute @gmail.com. I got it.
Gmail is short for Google Mail.
I thought it was short for G-electronic mail.
Yeah, just open up your preferred web browser and go to google.mail.com and say, "Hey Siri, send electronic mail to the Home Alone Minute @gmail.com."
Should we be more prescriptive about what they should be sending to this email address? Because I assume if we don't give them direction, they're going to send us those like chain mail forwards from back in the day where like if you don't forward it on to 10 people, you won't be blessed.
I'm mostly interested in gift cards.
Isn't it pronounced GIF?
It's the gift card, yeah. Which is short for Google Gift Card.
G-electronic IFT card.
You know, for whatever. I spent a lot of time at Panera. You know, if you like what you hear, buy me a charged lemonade. Maybe it'll kill me.
If you hate what you hear, buy them 10 charged lemonades.
And then we'll get on the news. And there's no such thing as bad press for a podcast that breaks down the movie Home Alone minute by minute. Now you'll be flying solo for the 100 minutes we have left, but
I can't do 100 and something minutes alone.
pack my suitcase? Listen to you. The journey you're on, buddy. By the end of this thing,
Toilet paper and water.
I did earlier. I started a list on my phone of all the names that Kevin gets called.
Trout sniffer, I think, is one of them.
So many. Puke breath? Is that?
Well, and would you say when he's referred to as a disease, is that being called a name?
Cheek face. Cheek face.
Cheek face.
Flimwad.
Flimwad's a good one. Flimwad felt right. Flimwad felt like something you'd also hear on any Nickelodeon series that was a contemporary.
For sure. It sounds like a word that Buzz would use, but it also sounds like a villain on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Make my monster grow. Don't you know how to knock, Goldar?
White Ranger, another model cool guy.
Oh, Jason David Frank. Yeah,
Or wait, hold on. Wait, which?
that was Tommy. Well, he was White Ranger, but prior to that, he was Green Ranger.
Okay, yeah, okay.
He was super cool.
Yeah. Just the coolest.
He's super cool.
Yeah, thanks for listening to the Home Alone Minute, presented by the Home Alones, one of America's best bands about the movie Home Alone. Please email us at thehomealoneminute@gmail.com.